All right, welcome back to Mr. Pell. So Precal, this is Unit 3, Topic 4, Lesson number 3, which we're going to be dealing with law of cosine. So this is this formula that you see right here. So the important part is that this C and this C right here is always going to be the opposite side of what you do have. So in this case, we use law of cosines so I would prefer to use law of sines, but I use this when it's side, 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 or side, angle, side. And there's a good reason for that. Now, the reason why I can't use law of sines here is because I have this angle, but it's unknown across it. So if I put sine of 49 over W, and I don't know this angle either, you can't solve for two variables at the exact same time. So I can't solve for this side and this angle using law of sines, or this angle. So I can't use law of sines there either. So side, side, side is also, you would know either angle. So it means that you would have two unknowns. So when it's either side, angle, side, or side, 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 you would have two variables with law of sines. So therefore, this is your last resort with law of cosines, which can or can't be maybe sometimes easy, as you will see here in just a moment. So this happens to be an example of side, angle, side. Now, this is W squared, so it's always the opposite side is equal to 41 squared plus 36 squared minus 2 times those two sides times cosine of 49. Now, I could just simply put all of this in the graphing calculator and press enter, and that's going to give you a number. Then do square root of that answer, and it's going to give you 32.25. So literally you're just putting all of this into a graphing calculator, which is 41 squared plus 36 squared minus 2 times 41 times 36. And we're literally just putting it in with the same parentheses and everything. And I'll show you that's what I'm doing. And then I press enter, and then that gives me W squared equals about 1040.3137. And I'm going to do square root of that previous answer, and that gives me 32.25, which is there. Exact same answer. Okay, so look at this. This happens to be an example of side, 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 which is not the same as what I just did. So remember, this is angle that we're trying to find. So opposite of it would be the C squared. So that would be 36 squared. Let me move myself. Is equal to 34 squared plus 42 squared minus 2 times those same two sides. Be careful here. Don't put 36 because it's those same two sides that you put right here times 42 times cosine of x. All right, so now I'm trying to find x. This makes this a little bit more difficult. So I can't just put the whole thing in the calculator because it's not set equal to x. So I'm going to do this one step at a time. So I'm going to do 36 squared, which happens to be 1296, equals 34 squared. 34 squared is 1156. And 42 squared happens to be 1764. Now, I can simplify all of this. So 2 times 34 is 68. Multiply that by 42. Gives me 2856 times cosine of x. Okay, so my next step would be to try to solve for x by isolating the variable. I want to get rid of the add or subtracts first. So 1296 minus 1156 minus 1764 gives me negative 1624 equals negative 2856 times cosine of x. All right, so all I did was I moved these to the other side by subtracting, and that gave me this. Now I've got negative 1624 divided by 2856, and that gives me, okay, that was supposed to be a negative, so let's try that again. Because a negative divided by negative is a positive. 1624 divided by 2856 gives me 0.5686 equals cosine of x. And now I'm going to do inverse cosine of that previous answer, and that tells me that x is about 55.34 degrees. There we go. And then once I have that, then I actually have options, because now I can use law of sines to find the other angle, because since I now know this, and I know this, and I know that would be three things I know, and I could then solve for sine of angle A. And then once I know angle A, I would find angle R just by subtracting 180 minus this and minus this. That was if I was being asked to find all of the information. That's how I would go about doing it. Or, now keep in mind, I could just use law of cosines again and say that this squared equals this squared plus this squared minus 2 times this times cosine of A. So once again, I have options. I can use law of sines now, or I could use law of cosines. It really doesn't matter which way you do it. This question is done exactly the same, so I'm going to save a little bit of time and go to these questions. Another side angle side question. So we have x squared equals, I'm going to do one of each. I'm not going to do both of these. So remember, that's the opposite side is equal to 16 squared plus 28 squared minus, let me move myself, 16 times 28 times cosine of 127. Now, this is a nice question because I'm solving for a side. And when you're solving for a side, I can literally just put this all into the calculator and press enter. As you wait for me to do that. So 16 squared plus 28 squared minus 2 times 28 times 16. It really doesn't matter that I put those in backwards, times cosine of 127. Press enter and I get this. And that tells me that x squared is equal to about 1579.226. And then I'm going to press square root of the previous answer, and it tells me that x is about 39.73. Well, 74 technically rounded to the nearest hundredth. Oh, it does say tenth? Okay, so 39.7 rounded to the nearest tenth. All right, I'm going to skip this one because it's a lot like the one I just did. It's also side angle side. Once again, it would just say x squared equals this squared plus this squared minus 2 times this times cosine of 36, and then just put it all in the calculator and press enter. Now, what about finding angles? So this would be 10 squared equals 13 squared plus 11 squared minus 2 times 13 times 11 times cosine of x. Okay. 10 squared is 100. 13 squared is 169. This is 121. I'm going to simplify this. So minus 2 times 13 times 11 is 286 times cosine of x. Okay, so the next step would be to subtract 100 minus 169 minus 121 more. It gives me 190. Okay. Now I'm going to divide that number divided by negative 286, and that's going to give me about 0.664. Now keep in mind that here's my calculator, that I am rounding on the screen, but I'm really not rounding in the calculator. So now I'm going to do inverse cosine of that previous answer. If you don't know previous answer, it's just second and the negative sign. Oh, there you go. So you can see what I'm doing. I did press second and the negative sign, which gives me the previous answer. And that tells me that x is about 48.36 degrees. And once I've got this angle measure, then I have the option of either doing law of sines to find another one of these angles, which I know it didn't ask us for, but you might be asked to do that on a test. So I can either use law of sines to find the other one, since this would be one unknown and I know this. And I know this and I know this, so that would work for law of sines. Or I could use law of cosines again to find another angle. And then once I have that angle, and it doesn't matter which one I used it for, I could then just do 180 minus this equals this. That would be the easiest method. Or if you prefer, you could just do law of cosines 3 times. So, like I said, plenty of options, and this is where I'm going to stop. Thanks again for watching. Please drop me a question in the comments if you have any questions, and I hope you have a better understanding of law of cosines. Thanks again for watching. Have a great day.